Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today in this video, I gotta admit something. I'm a little bit of a fraud when it comes to retro gaming, and that is when it comes to my 70s and 80s game consoles over here. None of these are hooked up. They're just basically sitting here for decoration. And there's kind of a reason for that. There is power going to all these, they're just not all hooked up to the TV here like I would like. So hopefully in this video we can get that fixed. Now, for the most part, hooking up multiple game consoles or devices to one television, at least in modern days, is extremely straightforward. Now, in regards to modern game consoles, devices, and computers, devices like your Xbox Series X, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, PS3, Wii, Xbox 360, Blu-ray players, you can usually hook all these up to one television through its multiple HDMI inputs, since most of these have at least 2 or 3 on the back somewhere. And if you don't have enough HDMI inputs, usually cheap little HDMI switches like this, you can plug in multiple devices into one and just cycle through them as you need. Very straightforward and very simple. In regards to retro consoles such as the Xbox, PS2, the GameCube, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, these all use composite or as video outputs, and those you can use simple composite switch boxes like this one here to switch between them and connect them to a retro CRT or modern flat screen, since some of these still have composite inputs. So there's options for this era of retro gaming. However, this all becomes a huge problem when it comes to these 70s and 80s model consoles, because with the exception of the Nintendo here, none of these really came with native composite output. They all relied on coaxial to connect to the antenna input of television. Now, back then, this was not as big a headache, and it was actually pretty straightforward. Most of the time, you could use switch boxes like these to connect your analog antenna and your game console or retro computer of choice, and then just be able to hook this into the back of the television and switch between your antenna and your game console or computer. Very straightforward, because most people weren't going to have multiple devices that required you to hook up into the antenna coaxial jack, since most of these devices were actually fairly expensive. However, in modern days, a lot of us retro collectors have multiple or several game consoles and retro computers that may need to hook up to a coaxial system, and unplugging them all the time and just reconnect them in, it does not also a bit of a hassle, but it also creates a lot of wear and tear on these connectors. And since a lot of these have really weird connectors, just go watch AVGN rant about the RCA Studio 2 to know what I'm talking about. They can get damaged over time to the point where they won't be able to be plugged in anymore. So what do we do about things like this? Well, the problem is when you type in coax switch box, you either get these little guys, they're modern replacements, or you come across ones that use BNC connectors, which are not useful at all, because, well, these don't use BNC. These use these old style threaded ones. And, well, yeah, you could go the route of buying one of those BNC switch boxes, getting a bunch of converters to go from BNC to the threaded ones, and then go from there. But that's also a bit of a hassle and could add up in expenses pretty quick. Another option that's not as straightforward and could get very complicated is, well, just composite mod all of them. I mean, the NES has composite output already, but you could composite mod the Atari 2600, the 5200, the 7800, the ColecoVision, or any of those Pong consoles, and you can just connect them all to a composite switch box like I showed on my Sony Trinitron, and just do it that way. But that also adds another layer of complexity, because, well, depends on how old your television is. That might not have a composite input at all. Like the Magnavox I've shown, that actually doesn't have any composite input either. It has audio output, but it's not an input. So I would need to have another device, a VCR, in between all that just to get that to work. And one of the other problems with that method is, yes, the 2600 is a very easy console to composite mod. It only needs a couple of components and it'll have composite output. But some devices aren't very straightforward. The 5200 is not straightforward at all, because the video output and the power all go through the same cable. So it requires a lot more circuitry to get that one to work. The ColecoVision has a simple composite mod as well, which I also need to do, but there are devices like the Pong consoles where schematics may not be out there and no one's composite modded them yet, and there may not be a straightforward way to composite mod them. Plus, if you do it wrong, you've destroyed that console and made it irreparable, and well, if it's a rare one, you're up a certain creek without a paddle. So what's the option here for getting this to work? Well, what I'm going to be doing is hopefully using one of these. These are coaxial splitters. And how these worked back in the day was actually pretty simple. You'd have an antenna signal coming into the input, and then it would be split amongst the two outputs. So you could have a television in one room and a television in another room, watching completely different channels because of how the analog antenna system works. Now, these were actually very common in the 70s and 80s because, well, televisions were expensive, so when you bought one, you weren't just going to throw away the old one. Usually you set it up in like the old one up like in a bedroom or in a kid's room to play, well, Nintendo or the Atari. So realistically, you might have had multiple televisions for one antenna input. But these kind of fell out of phase during the rise of the cable boxes, since a lot of them had intelligent circuitry that could tell if you were using splitters. And, well, personal anecdote with this, I remember my dad having issues getting DirecTV to work in multiple rooms until the installer basically said, hey, we know you're using a splitter. You have to use a certain kind of splitter with the signaling because it could either cause data interference, but also you're not paying for a multiple TV household. You're only paying for a single box household, so only one TV gets the cable. Sorry. So these kind of fell out of favor, but you may be wondering, well, why am I even bringing this up? Because this is a splitter. And, well, one and multiple out, that doesn't help us in the situation, does it, when I'm trying to go multiple into one? Well, these older splitters like this were not directional. Usually, in a lot of cases, they were just straightforward split wiring. There was one wire that went from one side, one that went to the other, and they both met in the middle at the input where it could be split. And because they weren't directional, you could, in theory, connect two devices and have one output. And that's what we're going to try and do today over there by using a 4-way splitter. Now, this is a brand new one, and I actually don't know if this is going to work because a lot of these older ones weren't dioded or single directional or unidirectional. These newer ones, though, I don't know if they would be unidirectional in order to make sure they would comply with old-style cable boxes. Since, again, a lot of them you wanted to make sure you weren't trying to save money by splitting your cable box signal into 4 different televisions across your house. So this might not actually work, but we're going to try it out back there because, well, again, I want to get all those consoles hooked up so I don't have to keep moving that TV in and out just to do it. So let's go try it. Okay, so first off, I need to apologize for any mess back here because, like I said, this thing is constantly being pulled in and out. Okay. So here we are at the back of the entertainment center. We have my Megavox TV here with one antenna input and audio output for going to a sound system, which I don't have a sound system over here. I'm fine with the stereo speakers. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about getting the Selectavision hooked up or the VCR yet. Mainly, I want to see if I can use the splitter the way I'm hoping it'll work. It might not. It might be a new enough one where it is dioded. And like I said, the reason why I'm thinking it could be is because there was a time where I tried buying a couple of these 2-way splitters for some things, and it was one unidirectional. It wasn't bidirectional because it needed to comply with something with old cable boxes or something. I know somebody hopefully can correct me on that if that was even a thing, but I do remember I bought a couple of these once and they just didn't not want to work for something I was trying to do. And I was told that it's because, cable boxes, the DirecTV and all the others kind of wanted these to be, they wanted you to buy theirs, which was circuitry controlled to make sure you weren't splitting your signal across your house. But anyway, we're going to hook up the 3 game consoles, the NES, the Atari, and the 2600 and the 5200. Go from there, and then later on I'll deal with trying to hook up the Selectavision and the VCR. This one is giving me some fits, actually, so I might not hook this up to anything, so let's just try it. And yet, I know what you're thinking. Well, hey, the NES here has an input as well. Why don't you just daisy chain everything? Well, that could cause a whole crap ton of interference, which is not ideal. Okay, there's a NES. Here's the adapter for the 2600, which, yes, is still using that DIY coaxial cable repair. I do want to switch that out at some point. It works fine. It's just I've gotten so many questions if if this was a composite mod or not, and no, this Atari was not composite modded yet. 5200. I'm just going to plug them all into the same side, that way I can keep track of them. Oh wait, no, I can't do that. Oops, I just got screwed up. Okay, so there we have it. We have the Atari 2600 up here, 5200 here, and the NES here. These are all say out, but currently they're going to act as an input, and the input's not going to be the output to the TV. So let's try it out. Okay, we have cable here. And probably know this actually might cause some interference anyway. So if this doesn't work or I don't like the way it looks, I'll just go back to the way I was doing it, which was pulling this thing out all the time. Isn't coaxial fun? There. Now that's I'll tidy this up back here later, but let's try it out. Okay, so got the TV powered on, channel 3. I've got a game in each system. I've got Mario 3, Pitfall, and we're going to do Moon Patrol in the 5200. And let's just see what works and what doesn't work. This one first. Awesome, and that looks actually pretty good. All right, let's do the NES. Yes. Don't hear any audio, though. I just realized that. Do I have audio? Oh, yep, there's sound. Awesome. Oop. All right, and now for the Atari. Oh, perfect. Awesome. This worked out really well. Do I have sound though? Yeah, this one's plugged in. Yeah. Okay, so this worked out actually amazingly well. I wasn't expecting it to just work. I was kind of expecting there to be some issues, some configuration problems, like I'd have to change the layout of which one goes where. Try something else, try this. Yeah, I was expecting there to be at least half an hour of me messing around trying to get this thing to work. It just worked first shot with one of these cheap splitters. I'm actually blown away about how easy that worked. Yes, there was some graphical interference looking stuff on the Atari 2600 side, which I don't know if that's from the way this is all wired in now, or if it's from the composite cable that I used to replace the RF cable. I did it a couple of years ago. For all I know, it could be that. I want to actually switch that out with a actual Atari RF cable and actually see if the image improves. That's going to be a later video. But yeah, it all just works. It works quite well. Like now I can just come down here when I want to play a game or whatever and just hit power and not have to worry about pulling the TV out, swapping cables, doing this, doing that. And yes, I fully understand I could bypass all this headache by just getting rid of this TV completely, composite modding the 2600 and the 5200, and then running everything to the Trinitron, which, yeah, that's something I probably want to end up doing if this TV ever conks out or craps out. But I kind of like the idea of using this old 80s television to play these consoles the way they were supposed to look back then. I mean, that's how I remember playing the Nintendo back in the day, was through an RF cable, through that little switch box they have, and struggling with the image quality. And actually, the image quality is not all that bad from right here playing it on RF. So I have no complaints on that. I'm blown away by how easy this whole thing just worked. And it's all thanks to one of these cheap little RF splitters. And yeah, the thing is, I wasn't 100% certain this was going to work this way because, like I said, for a personal anecdote here, I remember my dad vividly struggling because we had DirecTV back in the day, and he was trying to be cheeky and run a second cable up to the master bedroom so that he could watch whatever upstairs. Unfortunately, it would just never work right, and we were getting interference problems. We were getting signal quality problems. Channels not coming in at all that we knew we paid for. And I vaguely remember, my dad talking to one of the techs because they came out and he saw that we had a splitter and he said, no, you can't do this. Our system cannot, you didn't pay for a multi-house setup for your cable box. You have to use one of our special electrically controlled splitters because these will not work for trying to do that, what you're trying to do. You're trying to split the signal into two things and it just won't work that way. I guess Since then, I've tried to buy some of these cheap two-way splitters to do things like this before. Before I had the 5200, when I was living at home, I tried to hook my Nintendo and my Atari together to the same TV, and it just wouldn't work. Like, it just I wasn't getting any signal out to the TV, and I just assumed that they, had some electrical like diodes or something in these things that kept them from working that way. Because why would you try to do two sources into one TV like that? It just wouldn't make sense. But again, that's just a personal anecdote thing, and for all I know, that might have just been complete idiocy, user error on my end, and I bought the wrong ones back then. And well, this go around, I bought a cheap one from basically a general store, and it just worked. And obviously, your mileage is going to vary if you want to try this out on your own. If you want to try this on your own, maybe you have, like I do, multiple RF-based game consoles, or maybe you have multiple old computers like the VIC-20, the Commodore 64, the TI-99, or the Coco line, and they all use RF. Yes, they have composite out as well. I'm just spitballing on that one. That if you want to hook all those up to one television, that's RF only, like this one here, and you just want to do it that way, I'm pretty sure it would work. I mean, obviously your mileage may vary, so take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt. So that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. Really hope you enjoyed this kind of a spur of the moment housekeeping video that I've been wanting to do down here for quite a while. Because especially in this case, moving this TV constantly, I was always at risk of a cable catching or something falling off of this and breaking, and then it'd just be a huge hassle and headache. And yeah, like I said, this just makes it a lot easier for me anyway to be able to play the games that I want to play without having to keep connecting and reconnecting things. It just makes things so much easier. So if you have any thoughts or comments about what I did here, why I did this, any advice for maybe getting anything else hooked up, please let me know down in the comment section. I really can't put a link to the splitter here because I got it from a general store. And they had a little section that had antenna cables and splitters and Ethernet cables and that kind of stuff. It was really just a little generic section like a farm store. So if you find them on Amazon, you can find them on there. Be on the lookout for some more videos involving some of these consoles. I do have a future video here planned with the Atari 2600. I'm going to be composite modding one, not this one. I have a reason for it, but I am going to be composite modding another 4-switch wood grain one, and also restoring a Vader model 2600 here in an upcoming video. So be on the lookout for that, because I can't wait to see the quality difference between this one and the one I'm going to be composite modding. It's going to be a really fun video once I get it going. And with that, again, thank you all for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.